Hello guys, this is my 45th video in React series, and in our previous video we have understood that what is context API and why we have to use this context API, and I referred this PPT and referred this example and I explained you what is the purpose of using this context API. And here I have this simple example. To use context API, first we have to create that one, then we have to provide the data, and then we have to consume that data. Okay, we have already seen this one, and here is the definition for that. It is a way to pass the data through the component tree without having to pass props down manually at every level. And also we have seen a simple example, and these are the 3 steps we have to follow to use context API. And here we have seen this example. From parent component we are passing to all the components this data, we are passing to all the components, getting that data inside this third component. But actually I needed the data inside this component itself, but I have to pass the component, but I have to pass the data through all the components, then I'll be getting the access to that data here. So now we are going to see an example of context API in this tutorial. Now from here inside app.js I'm just going to remove this entire thing. Okay, before that I'll just show you the output here. This was our output. This was a parent component. Inside this I'm having this component A, component B and component C. Okay, all the components is having this access. You can see all the components are having this data, and finally I got the data to C component. Directly I can't send the data from parent to component C. First I have to pass to component A, then I have to component B, and then finally I have to pass to component C. Now here in this example we are going to create context API example. We are going to create, we are going to provide, and also we are going to consume that data. Now we are going to see an example of that. Now from here I'm just going to clean this entire thing, and also from here I'll be removing this, from B I'll be removing this, and finally from C I'll be removing this. I don't need this one. We are going to write the code completely from the scratch. Now here this app component, this entire app component I have passed inside this index.js. So this will be our main parent component. App.js is the main parent component, and now here I am just going to create context. So first we are going to create context, and to create first we have to import that one. Here I am just going to write this create. I have this create context. Now once you import this create context, you have to create context, that is you have to create one data layer. Now here I am just going to create one variable, and for this variable let me just give the variable name as language. Now here I am just going to create context. I'll just write here create context. Okay, this is how we are going to create. You just have to write this one and you have to import this one. Now our context is created. Now whatever variable I am having this, I'll just copy this one. Now for this I'm just going to give capital letters so that we don't get confused. I'll just copy this one. Now this variable I have to pass as a custom element here. Now here I'm just going to pass that one language. I'll close, and inside this I'm just going to render this app component. I'll just remove from here. Now whatever context, this context we have created, we have stored inside this one. Now I am just wrapping our app component, our parent component, inside this create context. Now once we are done creating context, now we have to provide that one. Now our data will be stored inside this one, and from here we have to provide. Now we are creating this context here, and the data will be stored inside this one. Now this is going to provide the data. So here while wrapping this one, you just have to write here dot provider. Okay, whatever data you are having, you are just providing that one, and also while closing you have to write here dot provider. I'll just explain you. First we have to import this one, then we are creating this one, and inside this we are going to store all the data, and each component will be having access to this component. Now here inside this I have just created one variable language, and this language I am just providing that language. Okay, whatever data I am having here inside data layer, I am just storing inside this variable. Whatever parent component I am having here, I am just wrapping that context variable here using dot provider. Okay. Now this is the layer. Now this is the variable which will be providing the data to all the components. Now what data we have to provide? Now suppose here I am having one value. I'll just write here value, and inside this I'll be writing here Reactjs. Now inside this value I'm just writing one language, Reactjs language. Okay, I just want this value, whatever value I have providing, this value access I want to all the components. Now here I have provided this value inside this one. Once I am done with this, now I have to export this. I'll just copy this one, and here below this I'm just going to export that one. I have exported this language, I have created this one, I have wrapped my main parent component here, and I have exported that one. I have exported this language, and here I am passing this value, and this value I want access to all the components. Now here I am having component A, I don't want the data here. Here I have component B, I don't want the data here. Directly I want the data inside component C. So this component C is our consumer. Okay, our parent is the provider and this component C is the consumer. Now whatever data my parent is having, that data directly I can get inside component C. I have already exported language, so here I have to use that one. So I'll be importing language here. Import language from, and my language is inside index.js file. Now here I have to consume that data. So here I'll be writing this language dot consumer. I'll just write this consumer. Now this consumer will always need one function. So here I'm just going to create that function. And inside this function, I want to get that value whatever my parent is having. So I'll be accessing that one using this one, using fname. I'll just remove this prop from my previous example. Now here I am just consuming that data, and inside this parameter all the data will be stored, and this consumer needs one function. So I am writing this function, and here inside this function is going to return something, and here let me just return h1. And here I'll be writing my favorite language. Favorite language is, and here I'm just going to write here fname. Okay, now you can see directly without passing to any components, directly I have consumed that data inside the C component, and here I am getting this output. Now here I am getting this error, can't resolve index.js. Okay, here I have just given 2 dots. Okay, you can see I don't have any output now. I have just given these 2 dots. I have come outside this component folder and I have passed this index. Now here this component C I have to import inside app.js. Now here I am just going to remove, instead of this I'll just write here C, and here I'll be writing C, and here I'm just going to write this C component. I'll save this. I'll refresh this one. Now you can see I got the output. My favorite language is React. Without even passing the props inside component A, inside component B, directly we have passed the data inside component C, and we got access, and we are just getting that data. Now this whatever code we are having here, this provider, this data layer, now this context API will be having access to all the components. Now suppose inside component B, I'll just come to component C, and from here I'm just going to copy the same code. I'll be pasting it here, and from here I'll be writing here component B. I am from component B. I am from component B. I'll just remove this, and from here I'm just going to copy this one. I'll just paste that one here. I'll just remove this. Now this component B I'm just going to import here. I'll just write here B, and also I'll be writing here B, and below C I'll be writing this B. I'll save this. I'll refresh this one. Now you can see I got the output. I am from component B. My favorite language is React.js. Now you can see it's so simple that we have just created context. We are just providing one data layer, and from that data layer each component will be having access to this data whatever is stored inside that data layer. We are just creating context, we are providing that data, and the value I passed is React.js. Now suppose maybe you are having products here, you are having cart, okay, you can have any data here. Now this data you are providing, and whichever component needs this data, they are going to consume this data like this. You have to import that. Before that you have to export that one. Like this you are going to export, and this component is going to consume that one. And this will always expect one function, and here I am having this function, and inside this I have passed this parameter. Now this parameter will be holding this data. Okay, whatever I have passed here inside value, that data will be stored inside this one, and while printing I am just printing that one. Okay, this is how it works, and this is the simple example of context API. Now this is the simple example of context API. Now what if I want, here I have this language and here I want front end technology. Suppose inside index.js I want one more data layer, and here I am just going to create that one, and for this I will be writing here front end technology. I will just copy this one. Now here below this I have to provide that one, so I will be writing that one here, and I am just going to provide that one, provider, and inside this I will be passing value. Here let me just write here HTML. In simple I will just write here HTML, and here I am just going to close that one, and also before this I have to close that. I will just write here front end dot provider. Okay, this is how we are going to pass. If I want another variable, I am just creating context for that one, whatever data I am having, another data layer, and that data will be stored inside this one, and for that I am just providing that data. Now if I want to consume that data inside, before that I have to export that one. I will just write here front end. I have exported. Now I will be importing it here. I will just write here front end. Now here I already told you this consumer always needs one function. This consumer always needs one function. So here I am having this function, and again if I want to use this front end, now this should be returning that one. Now here I am just going to write that one. I will just come below, and here first I will be writing that one. I will just write here front end dot consumer. It has to consume like this, and this is going to return function, and here I am just going to write that function, and here inside this let me just write here front end. And here I am just going to open this function, and here I am going to return now. I will just write here return, and inside this I will be writing here h1. I will just write here front end. HTML is used for website structuring. I have returned that one. Now below this I am just going to close that one. Okay, this is how we have to write the entire code. Now here this return has done. I am just going to return this. I am just going to close this return. Inside this return I am just passing this one for the second variable what I created. Inside this I am having front end. Now here I am just going to close this one, this functions, and here instead of writing here I am just going to remove from here, and here let me write here first name. Basically I have to write here language. I will just write here language. You can give any parameter names here. I will save this. I will refresh this one. Now you can see I got the output. HTML is used for website structuring, and React.js. Okay, I am from component B. I am just going to comment as of now. Inside app.js, I will just comment this one. I will save this. I will refresh this one. Now you can see this is how I will be getting the output. Now this is not possible. Suppose in future I want here backend technologies. Suppose here I want databases. Now for each I can't be consuming like this. Okay, it will become at one point it is going to become confusing. This first consumer it is going to return function, and inside this I am having this, and here I am just returning this front end and this language. Now this code we are going to reduce using use context hook. Now we are going to see about that in our next tutorial, but that's all for today's tutorial. If you didn't understand this one, then you have to practice this. You have to understand the concept, why we are creating, how we are creating, how we are providing the data, how we are consuming that data. Make some simple examples, make your own examples, just try to mix it up, just try mess with the code, learn, practice, and then definitely you are going to understand this one context API. You can store any data inside data layer, and all the components will be getting access to that data layer, and everybody will be having that products inside their component. So that's all for today's tutorial. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.